So on today's episode, we're going to learn about the building blocks for building a sustainable e-commerce business long-term. Great episode you don't want to miss, so do stay tuned. Welcome to the 2X e-commerce podcast show. I'm your host, Kunle Campbell, and this is the podcast dedicated to rapid growth in online retail. I cannot express my excitement enough for the episode you're about to listen to because this chap I interviewed, Jason Wong, is one of the most genuine e-commerce operators, practitioners, and evangelists, D2C evangelists around out there you can get. He's been on the podcast a while ago, about a year and a half ago in season 5. And he really talked about like the blueprint to e-commerce. And we was all over the place, the interview. I asked so many questions, and what he's managed to do is essentially systematize, codify just the blueprint towards e-commerce growth in an online course, which is called Building Blocks. He's invested $400,000 in this course. He's not in it to make money. He raised funds from brands from D2C, e-commerce SaaS businesses. He raised funds from Shopify, Shippo, ShipBob, Octane AI, Paid, Postscript, Deal, Klaviyo, Junip, Gorgeous, Alloy, Catloop, Clearco. He raised 400K basically for this course. And what he did with 400K is he produced the best e-commerce course out there. And I would say it is the best e-commerce course out there. I have yet to graduate. I've gone through about 45% of the course, and every single module has information that I've had subconsciously, but it is just presented in such a smooth, fluid way. He had his ideas well articulated by copywriters. He was able to deliver it very smoothly. The graphics, everything is top notch. I can't lie. But even if you're not interested in the course, you should be interested in this conversation I had with him, because he talks about how e-commerce has changed in the last 2 years, in the last 6 months with iOS, what he's doing to mitigate all of the data loss. We're in an existential crisis right now in e-commerce, in the web, in digital, where there is a lack of data. We're not using data in a clandestine manner. We're positively using it to get people what they want because we know more about them. So how do we claw back that data? And that's what we talked about in this show, in this conversation. And it was really interesting in terms of the ways he's using, or methods he's using, to enrich customer data, and just what it takes to build a brand now, a D2C e-commerce brand now in 2021. I'm going to have him back next season and the season after because he knows his stuff. I was going to say the S word, but he knows his stuff. I give another S word. Anyway, so for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, just like and, essentially subscribe to this episode if you enjoy it. For every other platform, if you're on iTunes, leave us a review and tell other people you think this show or episodes from this show may be useful to about this episode. Sharing and word of mouth is the way to win in e-commerce. It's the way to win in podcasting. It's a way to support this show, essentially. So I shall leave you. Just want to give you the heads up that we are running a Q4 conference. It's a virtual conference, and it's called Commerce Excel Conference, the Q4 Growth Edition. I'll send you more details every single week about it. But that's it for now. Enjoy this episode. All right, guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm about to interview Jason Wong for the second time. Now, the first time I was like in awe. right? This is a 23-year-old who'd done so much. I mean, with what he was doing with Doe Lashes, with Wonghaus, Drop House, all of the other experiments and iterations he had done. I think he did Mim Bible, and the depth of just information. Even Rishi, he's our copy editor for the podcast, was amazed. We had conversations internally at the back end while we were putting together the show notes. And now he's even done a bit more, and a lot has happened in that space of time. But for those of you who don't know who Jason is, go back to season 5, episode 34. So we're in season 6 now, but he was in season 5, episode 34. Maybe we'll make this a seasonal thing, and just listen to that episode, the blueprint to building and scaling a D2C brand. I'm just going to give a top level intro about Jason, and then we'll take it from there. So Jason is the founder of Wonghaus Ventures and Doe Lashes. He's a 24-year-old California-based entrepreneur with over 10 years of brand development experience, supply chain management, global logistics, and e-commerce. He is also a resident trainer in Shopify's online course. He has a course now, and he's a consultant to celebrities, influencers, and brands, top brands such as Jack in the Box, Coca-Cola, Adidas, and Fashion Nova, all at 24. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jason to the 2X eCommerce podcast. Welcome, Jason.
That was an intro. Thank you.
No, it's amazing. First of all, happy belated birthday. I saw your birthday celebrations on Instagram, and I was like, whoa, wow, okay. you know how to celebrate, and it's life. Enjoy life. So happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
And I kind of so there's Nick Sharma on the West Coast, 24 or so year old, and there's you. Sorry, on the East Coast. Sorry, in New York, and then there's you in the West Coast, and you guys are just holding it down from an eCom standpoint for e-commerce. So what's been what's happened? It's been over a year now since we caught up. What's been latest? And COVID obviously has happened. What have you been up to?
Really trying to build during this pandemic, because I feel like like these events, good or bad, are once in a lifetime opportunities. And despite all the challenges that we are going through, my main goal during this entire lockdown was like, what can I do that I can leverage the momentum of this entire situation. So my observation was that people are shopping online a lot more, but people's shopping behavior is also changing. So I started doing a lot of prep work for my brand during the pandemic that really allowed us to survive the entire event, if you will. Just trying to be a lot more proactive, because whenever these things happen, these once in a lifetime events, again, good or bad, disasters or very, very prosperous, they usually accelerate things. It accelerate people's buying behavior, accelerate how platforms are updating changes to how people use it. It updates and accelerates virtually a lot of things. And so as a operator and as an entrepreneur, we take calculated risks, right? So we take a lot of observation. We're like, what can we do right now to de-risk? How can we minimize our risk as much as we can? And so I just been doing a lot of prep work to do that for our own company. And I'm happy to elaborate on that later on.
Okay. Makes sense. So prior to our conversation, prior to going live, you mentioned that e-commerce has changed in the last 2 years. 2 years feels like a decade in e-commerce. Do you mind elaborating what has changed from some of the strategies and tactics you shared the last time you were on the show and now? Obviously, there's the complication of COVID and buying behavior, shopping, trends and shoppers' behavior, really. So what precisely has been the most seismic rather change in e-commerce in the last 1 or 2 years now.
Absolutely. And these changes I'm about to tell you has really accelerated over the past 6 months, really. But it started 2 years ago.
Mm,
Um, there's a time when Facebook was great and data was in abundance. You can put up an ad and everything works.
yeah.
Literally anyone will buy anything. And so everyone's super happy. They make a brand, they post an ad, they make money. And then over the past 2 years, people start realizing that the amount of data that they get is drastically decreasing over time. And with recent changes to even Apple's update, people are getting tracked less. Even on the email marketing side, there's less things for you to track now because Apple is giving you a auto-generate email for privacy reasons.
Right.
People are less willing to give up their data now because they're getting all these um, commercials and advertisements saying how they need to protect their privacy. And
Mm,
so from the brand operator standpoint, we're getting less data to play with. Our algorithm for our ads are getting less data points to target our customers. And overall, it's just been a more challenging time in paid. So no longer can you just put up an ad and expect it to go to perform the same way as before. People actually have to shift their entire direction to be nurturing what they have right now and
mm,
trying to get people to commit to a new level instead of just trying to get them to buy. And that new level is simply trying to give us their data now. Because
mm,
before it's very easy for you to buy an ad and get data, but now you have to work a lot harder to get the same piece of data, their phone numbers, their profile attributes, their birth dates, their phone number and email, all that stuff.
mm,
So that's really been like the big change is data. We got a lot less data points, and now our new advertising direction is how can we do whatever it takes to get data from these customers again, and how can we make our customers that have purchased from us right now buy from
mm.
us again because it is getting more expensive to acquire new customers. So let's try to hammer down on our existing customers. Really, those are like the big changes.
So it sounds like there is, well, the golden days of e-commerce, performance marketing driven e-commerce are behind us. And do you think that the impact is going, do you think that this has increased the barriers to entry in e-commerce, or do you think it's leveled things out for new entrants? Because there's no data. Do you think it's going to reconsolidate e-commerce so more serious operators actually, just stay in the game essentially?
Absolutely. I would say it, I wouldn't say level up the playing field. In actual, it actually increased the barrier, like you said. And the reason why is because a lot of what drives continued success for e-commerce brands right now is all the data points that we have already. Again, going back to the third point is that we're now going back to our existing customers and trying to get them to buy more. But if you're a new brand right now, you don't have existing customers. What can
Yeah.
you do, right? So you have to go out and acquire these customers. But it's not like this is now an impossible task. It just means that it really helps with the whole saturation issue that everyone's seeing because you're getting these influx of people, tens of thousands of people who watch a Facebook YouTube video on how to do Facebook ads, and then they start buying all the ad inventory. And there's a finite amount of ad inventory on Facebook. There's a finite amount on every single platform because there's a finite amount of people who are scrolling through the feed, watching the story. So realistically, there's only X amount of feed ad posts that there can ever be, and there's an X amount of story posts that there can ever be. When you get an influx of newcomers who thinks that they can create a Shopify store in 20 minutes, do no changes to it, don't care about branding, don't care about the community, don't care about email or whatever, toss an ad up and generate revenue. It takes that ad space away from people who are actually doing it the right way.
Yes.
And so in a way, this new wave kind of brings up that higher barrier to be like you if you want to really make it, you have to care about every single touch point of your customer, from the ad to their on-site experience, to the checkout experience, to the post-purchase experience, to even their product experience. Because
Yeah.
Facebook now asks the consumers on a few key points after they make a purchase through Facebook. How is the shipping speed? How is the product? And how is the customer experience? And they rate you on a score out of 5. If you get anything less than 2, over time, very, very quick. I would say like in like a week or two, your ad account gets banned. So in a way, it breaks up that barrier of entry. Yes, absolutely, but don't get intimidated by that. In fact, embrace it because it means that it'll actually be a lot easier than before for if you do this the right way.
Okay, so how do you do it the right way? And I'm talking on behalf of both established brands looking to further expand. They have data points, they have a customer base, but they still want to be active with acquisition and also kind of get their new customer acquisition at a reasonable price, obviously with CLV in mind, as well as the new entrants who have genuinely brilliant ideas for new products that will challenge the existing products in the market. You know, how do these baskets of operators or potential operators actually, you know, get their skin in the game, get the returns, and not get burnt? Because that could lead to trauma, I guess, and just less activity in the e-commerce space.
So I'll answer that by walking you through the steps to really acquire customers now. There has been a huge shift away from the dependency on entirely Facebook. People are now exploring alternative platforms again, like Snapchat, but they're also embracing new platforms like TikTok, which a year ago hasn't really been mature, but now is actually a really, really great platform for new brands to be discovered. And I say that because we were one of those brands who were actually saved by TikTok. With our CPM rising across the board on paid, TikTok allowed us to reach a large number of customers with virtually no ad spend at all. Because TikTok's algorithm is very particular in a sense where you don't have to follow a person in order to see their content. TikTok, they promote great content that is in theme, they're on trend, and they think that a particular bucket of user will enjoy it. And if you create content that fits that criteria, you will have the potential to reach a bigger audience than how many followers you have. We grew our TikTok from 0 to 101,000 followers in a matter of 6, 7 months. And that now accounts for maybe 27 to 30% of our revenue. Imagine that. We now make an extra 30% because of TikTok with no ad spend. And so we were effectively acquiring new customers from platforms that others weren't really exploring at the time. And we were able to get really, really cheap acquisition to offset the higher cost of Facebook. So overall, our MER is still at a very healthy level because of all these really good acquisition channels. Snapchat, on the other hand, was one of those channels that we thought died off because their user just went down with the new changes, updates that they did 2 years ago. But we recently discovered that they actually made a really good comeback. And we discovered that there's actually an older audience on Snapchat. When people talk about Snapchat, they think that it's just a bunch of teenagers sending pictures to each other. But in fact, it's actually, I would say, 20, I believe the statistic is like 20 to 25% of them are people older than 26 people,
Right.
26 years old. And so that presents a really good opportunity for you
Yeah.
to target for people for like, home decor. I have a friend who sells truck t-shirts. They do, I think, 8 figures selling just truck gears, like in apparel to older guys who drive trucks, which is not the demographic that you're thinking that was gonna be on Snapchat. So telling you all this is saying that you really need to think outside the traditional advertising channel. Everyone talks about Facebook. Everyone talks about, paid ads, but you need to really start exploring these outside channel that doesn't seem conventional. And beyond that, after you acquire these people, and now we gotta include Facebook again, where do you send them to? Traditionally, you send them straight to the purchase page on the product page for the add to cart, which you still could do right now. But one of the things that we have done recently was allocating a portion of our advertising spend to send people to our landing page where they can take a consultation quiz. You see,
Right.
when people are during the pandemic and saying how we're doing these things to adapt to the quarantine, people aren't able to shop in store anymore. So we started creating these shoppable quiz on our website because we have a variety of SKUs. And this will only work if you have, more than 5 or 6 SKUs. If you have one
Right.
SKU, one item, that doesn't work. But we create this quiz that you can take. It's 7 steps. You go through, you talk about, how often do you wear makeup? How often do you go out? What is your eye shape? What's, what kind of eyelid crease do you have? So we ask them about their personal attributes. We ask them about their makeup habits and a couple other questions to help them craft a profile. So their profile gets saved into our stuff. And the cool thing is that when they answer these questions, the data actually syncs into our Klaviyo, which is where we send emails. It
Mm-hmm.
also sends into our Facebook. So effectively, we have this profile that we built of this person saying they have never worn lashes before, or they actually go out very often. And we go through different email flows depending on the answer that they give us after they take the quiz, 30,
Mm-hmm.
60 days later. 30 days later, hey, we noticed that, 30, like a month ago, you told us that you have never worn lashes. Let me give you like a really special deal for your first order because it might be intimidating for new lash wearers. If you go out very often, we recommend you a larger bundle
Mm-hmm.
for purchases. So, we do these things on the back end. But going through that quiz, before they get the answer, they have to leave us their email, which is one, how we get the email flows.
Mm-hmm.
But second, at the end of the quiz, we actually give them a list of recommendations on what they can buy today.
Mm-hmm.
And this really creates this feeling of when you walk into a store and you don't know what to get, and you want
Mm-hmm.
to ask a sales associate, here's what I'm looking for. What can I get? We
Mm-hmm.
emulate that experience with a shoppable quiz on our website that really make people want to shop at our store. And it's a very low commitment. We're
Mm-hmm.
not asking you to buy right now. All we want to do is check out what kind of, lashes we think you'll look good with. And that small ask, that non-monetary and non-transactional ask, got them into the door. And so we're able to acquire customers for a lot cheaper cost compared to trying to convince them to click on an ad that says shop now. Very, very
Mm-hmm.
big difference.
Huge, huge, huge. So using shoppable quizzes to pre-qualify, leads to, well, closer to customers, if not immediate customers with the recommendations, and you've essentially codified the the shopping assistant. That it's pretty much a codified shopping assistant, on site, and they're whittling it down to what they're likely going to buy, right there from cold traffic or whatever, what traffic you're getting. So what tools? So what are your go-to platforms for shoppable quizzes at the moment? What works
We
really well?
use the app called Octane,
Okay.
Octane.
Mm,
I mean, the only other alternative is a Typeform, but Typeforms aren't that good for shoppable stuff because they don't integrate into your e-commerce store
mm,
and they don't really sync to the ESPs like Klaviyo or Facebook. So
yeah.
what I like about Octane is that it collects zero-party data, which is very, very different than, first party or third party. Zero party
Mm,
is literally the customer telling you
giving you.
about themselves for you to use.
Mm,
And that's very, very fantastic in an age where data is getting more expensive and sacred. So, like I said, the first thing I talked about when it came to the show is that data is getting hard to get. But with this quiz, we effectively got more than just what people usually ask for. People usually say, if you give me your email, I'll give you 50% off. Right now, by the end of that quiz, we have 7 new profile attributes to add to this person in our database. How often do they go out? What kind of eyelid shape do they have? Have they ever worn lashes before? What's their favorite color? All these questions that allow us to personalize the ad targeting down the
yeah.
line.
Yeah.
It also sends a event into the Facebook pixel. So on the Facebook pixel side, we can actually only target people who have never worn lashes before if they answer that quiz. It sends it into our ads manager, into our pixel. We can create an ad targeting people with a very specific target copy. Say, you never worn lashes before, let me make it easier for you. Here's 15% off, or here's like our new collection that I think you absolutely need to try for your first time.
Makes sense.
Very, very personalized ads.
Absolutely. So conversion rates for like a pop-up, an overlay, could range anything from 10 to, I've seen 25, 30%. So what kind of numbers are we looking at from quizzes, conversions from, cold traffic or targeted traffic from Facebook or any other platform to the quizzes landing page? How many people is it an overlay or is it integrated to the site experience? And what's the opt-in? So for every 100 people you send to the quizzes, how many sort of fill it up to the end?
I would say I checked last night because I was looking through our apps. I believe 8 in 10 people go through the quiz actually. Once they
Very
land on that
qualified.
page, it's an embed quiz. If you go on our website, it will say take this free lash quiz. 8 in 10 people take it.
Really, really interesting. Okay, so personalization seems to be like a major thrust now. There is, to me, from your insights, it sounds like there is a battle for customer data, and quizzes is one way to get that zero party data. What other what are the things are you doing to enrich customer data, or just to get more customer data, circumvert basically iOS 14 and 15 around the corner?
Yeah, so there's this other thing that we do post-purchase using an app called Co-op.
Okay.
And I keep mentioning these apps because apps are really the superpower that you can have as a brand if you know how to integrate them well together. Like a really good tech stack, it's golden. We use this app called Co-op, CO-OP Commerce, and they are a company that has a network of brands that you commit into, and this network of brands essentially will share customer across with each other as long as they have high affinity. So what Co-op does is that they have a machine learning algorithm that takes in all the brands that they have committed into their program, hundreds of them, and they're like, okay, Doe Lashes, based on what we have on their customer data, has really good customer affinity to brand A, brand B, brand C. So whenever someone checks out on brand A, brand B, brand C on their thank you page, we're gonna recommend Doe Lashes product, and
Awesome.
and vice versa. So on Doe Lashes, on our thank you page, it'll recommend brand A, brand B, brand C. And the reason why this is effective is that it doesn't cannibalize your sale because the person made the purchase
Post
already.
purchase.
So it doesn't hurt you. And two, it incentivizes, it actually promotes performance. So it doesn't let you take advantage of larger brands that have affinity because they might get a lot more purchases. It actually gives you a credit every time someone views that widget at the end, even if they don't check out. And if there's a view of that widget, it gives you that credit to be placed in another brand's widget. So it's only as good as you make it to be. So the more purchases that you have, the more credits you get, and the more placements that you get across other brands.
It remind, sorry, go for it.
Is my microphone cutting out?
No, 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 no. I was going to say
Okay.
something, but you go for it.
And really just this allowed us to share customers across the board without acquiring them again. Like we don't have to acquire them on channels. We don't have to acquire them on platforms. We acquire them within the Shopify and the e-commerce ecosystem, which is never seen before. Like sharing customer data, and it actually works very well. Surprisingly, like I didn't really see the value of it before I logged in and installed it. But then I realized that there's a lot of people who would like to just pick up an extra pair of lashes when they're buying makeup, when they're buying skincare. They're like, oh, why not? I just pick up this extra pair of lashes. It's just only 12.50. So we were able to acquire new customers from other people.
Okay, so I have a few questions around co-op. One is first of all, but such an observation. It sounds to me like it's like when you have the Instagram suggested profile, when you follow a profile on Instagram, just suggest a few profiles
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah.
But in the Shopify ecosystem. So does it then drive traffic to Doe Lashes? Let's say I'm in a makeup, website that has high affinity with Doe Lashes, or is there like a checkout? Does it provide a checkout, solution where everything happens on that site, or does it drive traffic and then you experience the brand and make a decision?
It allows you to just go straight to checkout. It really
Ooh.
removes that friction because
Ooh.
the reason why is because when someone has gone through a particular website's homepage, product page, and checkout, and they bring out their wallet and then they complete the purchase and then see your ad placement, they don't want to go through that again. They just want to check out and leave. It's like
Yeah.
when you're walking through a convenience store or a retail store, you're at the checkout line, you have your stuff already, and you're like, oh, actually, there's another thing that I could pick up
Okay.
at, it's like $2, $3. I can just pick that up, and you go complete the checkout experience together.
So
So
at a technical level, how do you code your checkout to, so is it your checkout or is it co-op's checkout?
it's our checkout with a co-op widget embedded
Oh, I
into
see.
it.
Okay. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Makes sense. Incredible. 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 And what kind of uplift have you seen from what's the attribution like?
We're seeing around 5 to 6% of our new customers coming in from co-op, which is, when we're talking about like 5 or 6%, it's like, yeah, not that big of a number, but that's 5 or 6% that we acquire with virtually no
Nothing.
ad spend.
Okay. Okay.
It's a very marginal, like it's not marginal, it's a very significant number
It
actually when
is.
you think about there's no cost to it.
It is. Is. So there's no cost right now. So it's free.
It's because you earn credits, right? So like every time you show
Right.
someone else's ad, you earn a credit. So it's a credit system. You don't pay for it.
So it's tokenized, really. This is like crypto, really. It's like, yeah, this could be crypto. When you earn the credits, that's like a token, really, in
Hmm.
crypto terminology. Fascinating, fascinating, fascinating. Okay, so how badly or how good was the makeup, skincare, your cosmetics industry affected by COVID? Over that period, what was the impact in general, both from your experience and from your conversations with other operators in a similar space?
It has become challenging for us in different fronts. Obviously, rising ad costs. There's a lot of logistical challenges of getting products to our warehouses because of lengthy shipping time, shipping delays. The cost of shipping containers triple since 1 year ago, like literally 3 times the cost. And we didn't raise our price for it, so our margins took a hit. And customers their buying behavior were very, very different than pre-COVID. So, makeup sales took a hit, but only in particular areas. Lipsticks, it's gone. People are wearing masks, they're not gonna see your lipsticks. But when you wear your mask, you see your eyes. So
Yeah.
eye product sales, mascara, eyeliner, eyelashes, actually saw an increase of 256% over the past year during the pandemic. So fortunately, we're in that category that saw a rise in customer buying, but we still were affected by the logistical challenges, the rising customer container costs, and the rising ad costs. But other than that, we did see the rise in buying, so that's been able to help offset a lot of the other challenges.
Yeah. And the incredible thing is that you have a bigger database, given the increase to the 200 plus increase in sales and activity with eye related cosmetic products.
Hmm.
So in the long run, you're well accelerated, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now you do have a course, the blueprint to ecom success, or yeah, blueprint to e-commerce success, and I've personally gone through. Actually, it's called building blocks. Building blocks, and I personally, in the last 3 days, I've gone through half, meaning that I've binge. When you binge watch a Netflix, series, I've pretty much binged, binge watched and listened to you. And I just have to say that what you've done there in building blocks is incredible. So yesterday, I have a 10-year-old son, and I happened to just play an intro, and he was like, "Daddy, what's that?" And I'm like, "Well," he thought it was like something from YouTube, like an animated. So first of all, the graphics were really done well in terms of like the way you've made it modular, obviously, which goes in line with the building blocks, and then the sound, the production, and not only that, it doesn't stop there. The content, 119 modules, 20 blocks. Blocks are like topics, gets
Mhm.
it's upon. And then you had lots of like people coming. Our friend Nick Shackelford, Chase Dimond was there, or Diamond. I call him Dimond all the time, Diamond, and several interviews. As in, you had like a podcast section within the course. It's first of all, how did you? What kind of work went into it?
Oh man, it was a lot. Um, it there's a number of things that happened that really make things more difficult. So I was inspired to create this program um, because I got so many questions of people asking me how to do this and how to do that. And I always felt that I wanted to give them more. When someone asks me, how do you do influencer marketing? Yes, I can tell you that right now, but influencer marketing needs to be supported by doing really good part on your website, really doing really good part on your PR, on your communication. But it's not realistic for me to, answer all this to every single person that asks me because they
Mm,
will ask me questions in different stages of the company. So I'm like, why not I just create this entire comprehensive program that will give you everything that you need. It'll answer all your questions. It'll also help you get started in e-commerce if you don't know how. And before this program, if you were to learn e-commerce like me, I I just started a store. I lost a lot of money
mm,
testing different theories, trying things out. There's no guidance. No one really gave you a step-by-step process to do these things.
mm,
If you go out and look for programs, they're gonna teach you how to do drop shipping. They're gonna teach you how to run Facebook ads, but no one ever tells you how to create a brand from scratch and
mm,
what to look out for. And one of the things that I think about when I made about this program is that I want to create these things in a way that helps me visualize how a company is built, which is why I call it building blocks. Because my belief is that every single brand is built by components. There's pillars that create a single brand. And sometimes they are stacked on top of each other, meaning that if one of them is not there, everything falls down.
yeah,
And so it creates this whole brand of a building block because like you have to have all these essential components
right,
stacked on top of each other. And the
right,
very first block number one, is called I think the founder's philosophy,
yeah.
something along those
The
lines.
builder's philosophy. Yeah,
There we go.
yeah,
And it goes over a lot of mental health stuff, a lot of mental models that you have. I think
yeah,
as a founder, your company is only as healthy as you are. And
yeah,
so there's a lot of founders that will burn out. I talk about, how to avoid burnout, signs to look out for. I talk about mental models that Elon Musk used to build his companies. How do you
right,
approach the difficult situations and problems? I did a little intro about myself, of course. I talked about, what you can expect out of it, and then I go and then lead into the brand design, the product design, the
yeah,
manufacturing. And I had all this idea back in March. We needed to film by April. So I had to write the scripts for the entire program in about 3 weeks. Entire class for in 3 weeks. And for perspective, the I did a program for Shopify. It was like maybe 6 videos. That took me 3 weeks. I did
mm,
over 150 videos in in 3 weeks. So we were scrapping for work. And the reason why I say 150 when you only see 119 is because we're still uploading those videos. There's so many videos to
ah,
be uploaded
yeah.
that we actually just soft launched. We gave you a advanced early copy.
Got it, got it,
And
got
then
it.
so what happened was that I was like, okay, man, I really need to hire writers because I have obviously my own company to run. Realistically, I cannot be writing scripts every single day. So I hired writers. I got sponsors. I went out and got sponsors, which is something that no program has ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Because previously, for you to go and create a class, you have to pay out of pocket for production, for studio, for crew.
Yeah.
Um, So I went out and I looked for all these companies in the e-commerce space, and I said, "Hey, I am making this class, and I'd like to feature your product, and going to feature products that I use personally." But so all these apps are things that I use already. But if I'm giving you an audience to showcase your product, I would like to get a sponsorship for it. So can we talk out a deal? So I raised $400,000 in 3 weeks, or no, in 1 week.
You're going to teach me how to do that.
So, so I raised that money from all these number of sponsors, and I use it towards production. That's why if you notice, the production quality is significantly better
It's
than whatever we have made before. We have crew, we have a director, a producer, multiple writers.
no wonder.
We have assistants on set. We have lighting.
Right.
We got multiple camera angles. We shot in different locations. So when I made that sponsorship money, it's not like I just pocket it all. I actually spent it towards that. And then
Yeah.
I use the remaining for hiring. So I hire a marketing person, I hire
Yeah.
project managers. And the reason why we need to hire these people is because, yes, you can make the class, but if you don't market it, then what's the point? No one's going to see it. So we put
Exactly.
all this money into marketing, into the crew, into hiring, and into production. And so that's one side of it. In 3 weeks, we rewrote all the scripts. I filmed in Vegas over 4 days period. Um, it was 16-hour shoot days. I lost my voice the first day because of how long it took. And before I go into the shooting part, I found out that the writers didn't write in my tone. It was very difficult to find people that wrote in my tone.
Yeah.
And so I rewrote all the scripts. I
Yeah.
rewrote every single script. So that's why I stay up really like to rewrite all the scripts. So on the date of the shooting, I finished the script of the day of the shooting. I went in, drove to Vegas for like 4 hours, went straight into filming until 10 a.m. I started at 10 p.m. So from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. I filmed. I lost my voice, couldn't talk. It hurts to talk. And so the next day I bought numbing spray for my throat to alleviate the pain. And I
Yeah.
filmed for the next 3 days. And that's how we're able to create this class. It took a lot of challenges to make it happen.
That's incredible. That's an incredible story. I'd have liked to hear your croaky voice, but no. The fact that industry players, right, major industry players supported, your venture, in this. You raised almost $500,000 to put this production, to put it together. Just goes on to show the amount of value you've given upfront to the industry anyway. And I can testify that I have not seen any depth of content, quality of content in the e-commerce space in a course like this one. As I said, I binged. So what I do sometimes is when I'm driving, let's say I'm driving like my kids, my two boys, they'll be there, they'll listen to like the system in the car, and then I'll just grab my phone and get my headphones, and I'll just be watching, well, not really watching, but listening in, and just getting all the content. And if there's anything noteworthy, I'll just mark it for when I get to a desk or something to really watch it when you demo it, because the content is just helpful. There are things that I know, there are things I didn't know. What I thoroughly enjoyed was the manufacturing and logistics, the depth you went in like finding in terms of like looking for manufacturing partners. I've also enjoyed the branding, what you talked about in branding, and what you talked about tone of voice in the branding section, ideation. There's just a ton. It's like if you want to sort of immerse yourself in e-commerce, want to get a full grip of what e-commerce is all about. It's no doubt a cost to get your hands on, and this is just from my assessment. So well freaking done. Question I have is, and I haven't really gone down into more the performance side, is with these changes going on with over the past 6 months, as you alluded to. What is the situation? So how is the course going to adapt? I know obviously the course is very recent. Are you going to, do you have, is the course going to be evergreen in the sense that if there are any major changes in the way we do influencer marketing or paid media, you make adjustments? There's some evergreen sections of the course, like the idea, the branding, the creatives, the logistics, the manufacturing, finances. But that middle bit of marketing seems to be changing, especially in relation to D2C, not branding, but more that performance and influencer marketing. What is the plan there?
So there's going to be a lot of the videos on there that will be evergreen because I teach a lot of principles. And there's going to be a lot of strategies that will be changing over time that will be updating to the program. So my plan for this class is that I'll update it maybe twice a year,
Yeah.
once or twice a year, because filming and script writing takes a lot of it takes a toll on your body. Like I went through it, and it was very very difficult to do that. So I think I can only probably do that twice a year. But I plan to update it. I want to add more videos. So if you're in the class, you're going to be in it for that price, even if I double the amount of videos that I'll film over the next 2 months.
Incredible.
So we'll be updating these things. Really, I want this to be a centralized resource. That was my entire goal. It's a way for you to not have to go out and YouTube something and wonder if video A is giving me the correct information or video B is giving me the correct information. But don't take this as to say that I know what's right and wrong. I'm gonna teach you a lot of things that are going to be factual because there's some things to do that there's only one way to do things, but then there's some ways to do where there's multiple ways to do things. So I'll teach you how to think about how to do these things. So I'll teach you about step by step things. Like if you, for example, there's only one way to create a barcode. There's this company that you use, and there's these buttons that you click to create a barcode. I'm gonna teach you how to do that because that's factual.
Yeah.
But then there's a way to do influencer marketing. There's a million ways to do influencer marketing. So I'm not gonna teach you how to exactly do it. I'm gonna teach you how to approach it, the approach that you need, the direction that you need, so that you can craft your own way to do influencer marketing as long as the end outcome is the same.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways of teaching, and things that are factual obviously going to stay the same, but things that may change over time in terms of, hey, maybe like the way that we talk to influencers 3 years ago was a lot more casual, and now we have to be more formal. I'll update that. I'll tell you that, hey, our communication method has now changed. This is what you need to do over time. There will be different updates to this class.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so question: what are your predictions for the rest of the year? I was listening to the radio, today in the UK at least. What's happening now is the follow. We had a follow system where the government was paying a certain amount of salaries on behalf of people of employers, and that's come to an end. And there's a bit of nervousness around. However, there were 45,000 people who played in the England versus Germany game in the stadium
Yeah.
in Wembley. So things are opening up, but there's this cautious optimism going on. So my thoughts are like, what's the outlook? It's July now. What is your outlook in D2C ecom for the rest of the year and beyond?
I think it's here to stay. People are definitely going back to retail and shopping now, but we're not seeing a slowdown by any means. And in fact, I think people have shifted their buying behavior to more online now. People who were previously going out and buy things in the retail store are now adapting to staying at home and buying it because they realize that they actually don't want to wait in line for 20 minutes to buy two items when they can just sit at the comfort of their home. There's new logistics partners now here in the US where you can ship and buy something and get it within an hour.
Hmm.
So in a way, I think people are adapting to buying on e-commerce. This doesn't mean that retail is dead. It just means that retail has to try a lot harder to get people to come back to their store.
Yeah.
And I think that will give us some time because it'll take a while for them to adapt and get back into places. People here in the US are actually facing employment issues. Everyone's on unemployment now, so no one's back to work. It's like there are restaurants and retail companies begging people to come back to work.
Hmm.
Whereas on e-commerce, we're just getting through fine. So it's a good news for e-commerce. We still have a lot of time to really grow. I wouldn't say we are at the end, even if the pandemic means that, or the end of the pandemic means that everything opens up. It just means that there's still a lot of things and opportunities that can happen. because people's behaviors change, and that's a key thing. Like things do not get accelerated and things do not get changed unless people's behavior change,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
what we're seeing already.
Yeah, and I wrote a little piece earlier on this week around the fact that we have our our Gen Zs and we have our millennials. And millennials are currently our 24 to 38-year-olds, and we have our Gen Zs who are 6 to 24. And whatever brands like yours, Doe Lashes, does to these Gen Z, sorry. They're going to be the purchasers. They're moving from that 6 to 24 in the next 10 years to the 24 to from the 25 to 34-year-old, which who have a lot of disposable income, and they're the spenders. And I don't know, this pandemic has obviously shifted that perspective, and I just think the next 10 years D2C is even going to double down again with growth, which is
Absolutely.
Incredible. That the Gen Z is a key. It's a key, really. Getting their hearts and minds to your brand. You guys are doing incredible stuff. Yeah. So for those for listeners who want to find out more about building blocks, I really like the URL. It's Build a House, which is house is in HAUS.com. So Build a House, HAUS.com, buildahouse.com. Just cleverly put. You could just see that many clever people, clever heads, put this together with you at the helm. Jason, it's an absolute pleasure having you on the 2x eCommerce podcast.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Cheers.